Thank you, Judge Law. It is an honor to be here in this distinguished company with these distinguished fellow panelists. When we talk about the rule of law, I think it is sometimes helpful to separate out two different aspects of the rule of law. The first consists of the laws themselves, the rules themselves that govern behavior. And when we say that a society operates according to the rule, in part what we are saying is that it has a comprehensive set of rules that have been created and that are legitimate and that are just. And I think Mr. Wang has just given us a very, very enlightening perspective on the pace at which China has completed this roster of substantive rules in such a short period of time, moving from almost no such rules in 1976 to a truly world-class array of rules today, admittedly with significant progress remaining to be made. The second aspect of the rule of law is the one that I'm going to talk a little bit more about, which is in addition to having these rules that must be legitimate and just, we also have to have legal institutions through which these rules are enforced, through which they are translated into the behavior of ordinary citizens. And in both with respect to the substantive rules and with respect to the institutions, they have impact across all the different 7 domains of law that Mr. Huang was speaking about. And I think it's important to appreciate that on the institution building side, and the primary institutions that we think of are the bar, the lawyers in the society, the judiciary, the judges and the courts, and legal education, the law professors. And in all of these domains, again, China has had to make enormous strides in a very, very short period of time. In 1976, there were virtually no lawyers in China. In 1976, there was a barely viable court system. And in 1976, there were 2 law schools in China with a total of about 100 law students. Today, there are about 200,000 lawyers in China. There is a complete network of courts with standards for judicial training and examination, which have, again, been adopted within the last 6 years. And there are 604 law schools with 300,000 law students currently enrolled. My own personal involvement with this process of the development of the institutions of China's rule of law began about 2 years ago and accelerated dramatically 1 year ago. Since 1999, Peking University, Beida, and Justice Anthony Kennedy of the United States Supreme Court have been working in partnership to try to develop collaborative structures through which American professors and judges and lawyers, these aspects of the human soft tissue of legal infrastructure, might be of assistance to the process of institution building in China. And 2 years ago, Justice Kennedy and President Xu Zhihong of Beida launched something called the Joint Center for China-U.S. Law and Policy Studies. And they engaged me to lead this effort, and they engaged State Roy, who we heard from yesterday, to serve on the board of trustees of this effort. And Lenovo Group agreed to serve as our primary corporate sponsor for our activities. And we've held a series of different conferences that relate to different substantive areas of law, primarily trade and tax law. And we used those fora to try to promote the exchange across lawyers, judges, and academics about these areas. Then, last year, President Xu and the leadership of Beida came to me with a more radical and more ambitious idea. They had observed that when it comes to the institutions that support the rule of law, globalization was rapidly changing the legal profession and legal education. Globalization was creating a kind of a transnational legal profession. This transnational legal profession has a distinctive set of skills and a distinctive approach to the practice of law, which is different from the prior understanding of what a lawyer does in much of Europe and much of Asia. In brief, this transnational lawyer is more active, takes a more aggressive attitude towards working with the law and legal institutions in order to promote the ends and the objectives of a client. And what was interesting was that through globalization, this transnational legal profession was emerging, and it was becoming accepted that the principal path into this transnational legal profession was through American law schools, and in particular through the JD program at American law schools. So across Asia within the last 5 years, in Japan, in South Korea, in Australia, in Hong Kong, universities were developing new programs of legal education that were built on the American JD model.